name is Mick. I'm the photographer that will be behind the scenes, behind the camera actually, of the zone videos that we'll be making. So we are very proud to bring you these, and you can check out our website with more photography and videography right here. And we're sorry about this first video, we had some technical issues, but this will be fixed in the next video. So see you then and hope you enjoy.
Okay, so welcome to the session. We're going to be talking about the Amgen Oncology District Managers Workshop, which is going to be held in Chicago on the 4th of February. We're going to have 80 district managers there. We're going to set them into tables of 5. So there's roughly 16 tables of 5. And how the day will go is, after a brief welcome from Bob and Jeff, we'll move into all of the parts of the workshop that the zone will run. And we've got through till 5 o'clock. So we've got 1 hour before lunch and then 4 hours after lunch to complete the pieces which I'll show you in a second. Okay, so let's show you the plan for the day. 11 o'clock open, as I said, we're going to start with Bob and Jeff kicking it off. Bob will give an overview of Amgen globally for the district managers, and then Jeff, who's the new sales manager, will give them his story about change. I'll then move into the fish story. I'm going to be framing that around how we work with culture. We'll take that through to lunch after a short table discussion, and then after lunch around 12:45, 1300, we'll come back to kicking off the afternoon with whole person. We're going to look at 6 different aspects of how to use the whole person. The first aspect is in communication, second is engagement, listening, speaking, and then we're going to move into, I can't remember 5, but 6 is definitely selling. So whatever 5 was, I can't remember. Anyway, then we'll have a table discussion about how they're going to use that, move into the zone model, so we get the being and doing, the short version, so they get the understanding of the zone. We'll go on to the TED Talk, the happy secret, and then we'll buddy them up and work on my plan using stop, continue, start, support. Stop, continue, start, support. So we use the stop, continue, start, and support model to run that. Okay, so let me just crack on into the fish story. We operate with and generate culture, and I heard this great story about the fish when I was actually on a health retreat in Turkey. And here's how it goes, and it's very applicable to culture. So, like most organisations and borders, and this is what we like to call the constraints in which we live in. And so one day this fish was happily swimming around in his bowl, or her bowl, and everything was good. Then a few things started to happen. There was a few complaints, there was a few frustrations, there was a few bad words. And then slowly but surely all of these situations in life started to cloud the water. And after a while, what happened was we noticed something. Instead of this happy fish, we had a fish that was starting to look a little bit sick. A few red shabby. And this water was now very, very murky. So we had no clarity anymore, we didn't know who the sharks were, we didn't know who the good fish were, we didn't know who the fish that were positive, the fish were negative, the fish that were positive, the fish were negative. All we saw was mud. So what do you do in that situation? Do you change the fish? The fish is looking pretty sick by now. Do you change the fish or you change the water? So, do you change the fish or change the water? Answer is obvious. You have to start and clean up the water. And the reason you have to start clean up the water, because when you clean up the water, you know what you've got. You know what fish you've got, you know who's on your side, you know who's doing all the work. And so that's what culture change is all about, cleaning up the water. With the managers, and they'll go into a group discussion after here, and they'll talk about 3 or 4 aspects of this. They'll talk about, so what actually pollutes the water in Anjing, what actually cleans the water, and what nutrifies the water. So when we talk about what pollutes the water, so what are the things that, you know, the words, the behaviours, the emails, the sayings, etc. that pollute the water? What are those things that clean the water up? And how do we nutrify the water? How do we add extra value to the water? How do we actually, more than just cleaning it, add something to it? What do we have to do that? And we'll talk about that, and then we'll carry that theme all the way through the afternoon. If you want to understand culture at a deeper level, you have to understand how humans operate, how they work, how they communicate, and how they interact. So let's just say that we have two people here, and you know they're having the normal sort of conversation, interaction at work. Better put a nose on him. So what do you find is the primary topic at work? What are most people talking about at work? Yeah, that's right. So most people are talking about facts, figures, data. It's all rational stuff, analysis. So, you know, where is it, when is it, how much is it, how much are we over, how much are we under, when can we expect it? So that's the general topic of conversation. And basically this is what we call rational or head conversation. So it's primarily people talking on a brain-to-brain, head-to-head analytical basis. And we need that obviously at work. But is that all of a whole person? No, that's right. It's not all of a whole person. Because what do we talk about when we get into the lunchroom? What do we talk about when we're just catching up? We're just hanging out. Okay. What we're actually talking about is a much different level of communication and interaction. And this is what we call the heart level. And the heart level of conversation or communication is all about feelings, emotions, and some people call that irrational. You quite often find this is a big difference between when you're working at the office and you come home and hang out with your friends or your family or your kids. So they can often be operating at a different level. And if you're operating up there and they're operating down there, sometimes you can get into all sorts of trouble, and I can see some of you have experienced that. But at work, there's also other things that we make decisions based on. So what else do we use as part of the whole person that we actually make decisions on? Everyone has it. That's right, so gut feel. So this stomach level here is where we get our gut feel. Woman's intuition, same thing. So gut feel, intuition. And this is the area where we sort of simply know. We don't know why we don't know why we're getting this particular feeling, but we just get it. And quite often if we follow that intuition, we're often right. And often we speak to CEOs and leaders of organisations who have said that I make a lot of my decisions based on intuition. And we say, well, why? And they say, well, I have so much data, I have so much analysis, I have so many contrasting and conflicting views, and I start feeling a bit stressed about it, so I really have to go and make decisions on my gut feel. And of course, that's not the only way that we work as whole people. So how else is it? Yeah, right. You see it when footballers score goals, when basketballers score goals. Okay, it's about action, it's about celebration. So there's the action level. And this is all about play, it's all about doing stuff, it's about celebration. And this is really, really important. So that if you don't have any play, any celebration, any physical doing in the workplace, people don't feel like they're working in a whole way. So is that the only areas of how we interact? And the answer is no. So we have one up here which is often overlooked in organisations or relegated to the marketing department. Yeah, that's right. So it's ideas, it's imagination. So we have this amazing ability as humans to imagine things. So we can create whatever we want in our mind's eye and then work with it, rotate it, move it around, change its position, add things to it. And this is where ideas and creativity come from. Now the amazing thing about this part of our brain is that when we have an imagination, generally it's on a different plane of consciousness. So it sort of seems to be out in front of us rather than actually in our head. So when we're imagining things, often you'll see people look up and look into space. You know that from daydreaming. And what they do is they're actually forming and reforming and shaping ideas out of things they already know to make something new, interesting. Musicians do it, artists do it, and creatives do it. But we've all got this creativity in us. Imagination is part of the whole person. But if we keep saying, oh, we're not the imaginative ones, then you're losing a big part of our humanness and our potential. Now the interesting thing about imagination is that we can actually use it to be the greatest source of good in the world or to create weapons of mass destruction. And that's the conflict that we often face being human. What do we do with this amazing power? And the answer is, how do we know when we're doing the right thing? And that's why it's so important to be in alignment as a whole person, so that our head doesn't tell us to create things that are maybe destructive, and that our heart is integrated with our head in a way that balances us out with intuition and then getting into action. And the other thing that's really important to balance out imagination is, of course, being grounded. So as a whole person, it's so important to be grounded and to have your feet on the ground and be in reality. And the way you ground things is to bring them into a practical sense. So you notice this morning when we talked about the fishbowl, we immediately took that concept and turned it into a practical reality for you. And that's how you ground things, by making it practical and real. So a real world. And when you do all this, when you actually have whole people working together, what you actually find is you get this other burst of energy, which we call energy or spirit. So you know what happens when you're having a great team session and you have that real team spirit. This is the energy that comes from people operating as whole people together. And we'll talk more about that when we get to later on today into the zone model. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the zone. So when we go, we're going to actually go from the whole person and just look at two elements of the whole person, the head and heart, or what we refer to as being and doing. So if we look at this is what we call the human dynamic model. And why do we call it the human dynamic model? Is because it's always happening. It's always an interaction that you're having with yourself and within yourself. So it's constantly dynamic and changing. So if we think about the human, we can boil it down to two basic concepts: being and doing. So if we think about our being, what's on the being side of us. So the being side of us is like who we are on the inside. So this is more the inner world, and the doing side is more the outer world. So on the being side, what sort of things are in the inside of us? That's right, feelings are on the inside of us. Okay, beliefs, values. And when you think about it, feelings, beliefs and values, when you talk about yourself and what I really value, what's really meaningful to me, what you usually find is you're usually talking about what's at the heart of you. So this is all about, what's at the heart, what's at your heart. And quite often when you talk to people and they're talking genuinely about themselves, they tend to touch the heart region or their chest region, and to indicate that this is really genuinely part of who they are. So this is all your feelings, your beliefs and values, and it's basically heart-based. When we go over to the doing side, what we're talking in the doing side is our actions. Our actions, our behaviours, what we do. Okay, so our actions and behaviours are all external to us. Things we say, So these are all the things that are happening outside of this. Now, generally, the control point for this is the heart. What's the control point for this? Right, the mind, the head. So there's a very quick brain for you. So this is the head over here, which is the control point. And over here, we have the heart as the control point. And what the zone is when these two aspects of ourselves overlap and are in alignment. So there's congruence with what we believe in and what we're doing. So this spot here is what we call the zone. So what sort of things happen when people are in the zone? Okay, so when you talk about people that are in the zone, they often talk about they're happy, they feel fulfilled, they're energized. Time seems to stand still, time seems to fly, they're enjoying things. So there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of enjoyment, and there's a lot of satisfaction, whether they're doing something solo or with a group of people. But are we always in the zone? Do we always feel that way? Do we feel like we're always, living what we love, doing what we value? No, everyone knows that. So what happens is you find that there's times when you're out of the zone as well. And some of the things that you have are out of the zone. So you have stress, frustration, pain, etc., etc. Now what you find is that if you're out of the zone for extended periods of time, what do you notice happens? That's right. You start to feel sick, you start to feel unwell. So that continued stress starts to play on you. And ultimately, if you don't fix that, you might actually get some sort of disease. You might feel so unwell that you get some sort of sickness. And that's a really interesting pathway. So spending time in the zone is actually very important, not only for you as an individual, but for you as a team and for whole organisations. So we want to get ourselves to spending most of our time in the zone. And if you think about when you're living your values, what's the ultimate measure of success of living, your beliefs, your true values? Okay, that's right. So it's what we want for everyone else. Happiness and peace of mind. And when you think about it, what's the measure of success in your doing? That's right, results. Now that might be monetary results, it might be a score out of 10, Whatever that result is for you, that's your measure of success. Have I reached my goal? Yes, I've reached my goal and I've done it in a way that gives me peace of mind. And this model then starts to come alive. Now, obviously over time, what you find is that people zigzag across this model. They go on holiday. First thing they want to do is get into their relax, reconsider, they start thinking about stuff. Then they get back to work and they're doing. And then this sort of stuff happens. So what we're trying to do is to give you tools and methods to reduce that swing so you're actually spending more time in the zone. And we want you to spend more time in the zone for yourself, for others, and then together. And the amazing thing happens is when you spend more time in the zone together, this is when real creativity and real problem solving can happen at amazing speeds. Okay, thanks a lot. So the next thing we're going to do is pop straight over into the TED Talk. And the TED Talk is going to be the happy secret to better work. And we'll talk about gratitudes, appreciation, positive psychology. And then we're going to get them to do their stop, continue and start on their personal plan from what they've learned today, how they're going to change things. And they're going to buddy up with someone from another region. Now I just wanted to zap back quickly because I did forget to tell you about one thing that we're going to do with the zone model. So once we've done the zone model, we're going to drop into leadership values and then do an alignment with Angie. And we're going to do the leadership values by doing zone moments and then work backwards till we find some core values. And we'll do that as buddies in a pair. So that's the whole day. They'll walk away with their own personal plan of action. They'll walk away with a buddy to help them and support them there. They'll walk away with understanding what the zone means and how to get into it. They'll walk away with understanding some of their own leadership values and how they're aligned with Angem. They'll walk away understanding how to use the whole person model with a variety of different aspects, from in communications through to selling. And they'll walk away with understanding that how they contribute to culture by polluting the water, cleaning the water, or neutrifying the water. So thank you very much. Hope you're going to have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the other side.